Every time I re-download Hinge, I am immediately and aggressively reminded why I stay the fuck off that app. So I matched with a guy last week. Conversation's good. He says he wants to take me out that Thursday. He sends me the place, he sends me the time. He's complimenting me nonstop through text. Everything's great. First red flag, I sent him an outfit pic of what I was wearing to a game night I was hosting. It happened to be a Drake's Her Loss album cover t-shirt. And this man texts me back and he says, "Oh, she's one of those." Next message, "Hot take, but Drake is trash." I brush it off. Maybe he just has interesting music taste. I don't know. Conversation continues here and there. Boom, it's Thursday. We get inside, he opens the door, he pulls out my seat, you know, all those good stuff. We're talking, everything's fine. I even text my roommate like, "Oh, he's cute, this is fun." Until we start talking about our families. So he's 6'8", and he's talking about how his family is all very solid. Like, they're not super muscular, not fat, all very tall, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh yeah, kind of similar with my family. My dad's 6'6", my brother's 6'7", all my sisters are tall, I'm tall. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, my sister though, she's put on a lot of weight." And I'm like, oh? And he's like, "Yeah, it's gotten pretty out of hand and we don't know how to tell her." And I'm like, oh, damn. And he's like, "Yeah, if you look at pictures of her now and pictures of her at high school, it's crazy." Mind you, she is 28, a grown woman. You are comparing her to 10 years ago. You're comparing her to her 18-year-old self, her child self, her pre-second puberty that women have in their early 20s self. I understand if she put on some weight, but comparing her to 10 years ago is fucking insane. So of course I had to educate him on all that. We move past and continue the conversation. So we continue to go to a bar across the street. While we're walking, he pushes me over to stand on the side of the sidewalk that's closest to traffic. But he makes a remark about how doing that switch is stupid in the city because you're always switching to different streets and it's just a hassle and it's just annoying to have to switch sides. And that's when I start to notice that every single gentleman thing he was doing was performative, like on purpose so I would notice he was doing it. And I've experienced that in the past. They do that in the beginning and it's like, "Oh, see, look what I'm doing." 2 weeks later, that shit's done and there's no more gentlemen. So I note that and I continue on. We're a couple drinks in at the new bar and I notice that he's trying to like flex his intelligence on me. Like make me feel less than, like mention things that he doesn't think that I'll know what he's talking about. He's naming artists and different authors and quotes and movies and all that. Then we're talking about classic movies and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know there's a movie for a fact you haven't seen because there's no girl I've ever met who's seen it and no girls have ever seen this movie ever." And the motherfucker says, "The Godfather." Huh? I took a film criticism class, bitch. What do you mean I haven't seen The Godfather? Also, I know so many fucking girls who have seen that movie. Like, what? What are you talking about? Bye. Basically, I know 90 to 95% of what he's talking about while he's actively trying to be an ass and I'm just trying to add to the conversation and it's making him really frustrated and it's really obvious. Then, randomly, while I'm talking mid-conversation, he kisses me, right? He goes in and he kisses me. This man tries to suffocate me with his tongue. I'm talking, never in my life did I think a tongue could go that far back in a throat. And I'm actively backing away. I'm moving away. I'm actively trying to push his tongue out of my fucking mouth like fucking sword fighting. And he backs up and I'm like, "Oh." And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, bold move. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I only did that cause like we're vibing." Who told you we were vibing? Like, okay, maybe he's just really drunk. Like, let me give it a chance. And just so you guys know, there were good points in this conversation. It wasn't all absolutely insane. It's just looking back now, I noticed what the fuck was going on. But I'm trying to give it a chance. I'm thinking, you know, people get nervous on dates, they make assumptions, like, let's just let it flow, you know? He originally had wanted to go out in Brooklyn, and I said to him pre the date that we have to meet in the city because going back on public transportation to Jersey at that time of night is an absolute fuck no as a girl. So he knew that I was going home. I said I was going home after this date. But he starts asking me about going and staying overnight with him. But I'm brushing it off and he keeps asking me. I'm like, listen, one, I'm not doing anything with you. 2, I'm on my period, like, I just want to be home. I have a cat, like, whatever my reasonings were, but I had valid reasons. And he's like, look, no worries. I wasn't even thinking that at all. Like, just come over. We'll listen to music. If you decide to stay, get breakfast in the morning, you know, no pressure. He's like, if we leave now, like, we can go get burgers on the way at this spot that I know. And I'm like, you know what? It's like 1 a.m. Maybe I'll just do it. It's closer to go to him than to go home to me. Like, okay. Now, hindsight is 2020. My ass, I should have just taken my ass home. I just should have fucking went home, but I didn't, and here we are, and now I'm telling the story, blah, blah. So on the way, we're walking to the burger place. He starts talking about how he makes friends everywhere. And I'm like, yeah, me too. And he's like, no. He cuts me off. He's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I make friends everywhere. I'm like, okay, you know what? If I don't understand, I don't understand. Like, whatever you want, dude. We get there, and he starts talking to the cashier and the other line cook that was there. Like, he's flexing and chatting, and it's so painfully obvious that they are actively laughing at him. He's trying to make some connection, but, like, they can tell how drunk he is and how drunk, like, oh my God, it was so bad. But I walk away, I let him do his thing, and then as we're leaving, he's like, yeah, see, that's what you get with me. He's like, friends everywhere. I'm like, okay, big guy, okay. So we are now on the subway, and we hadn't been talking for like a solid like 5 minutes. And so I was like, okay, you know what, let me make some conversation. So I look at him and I'm like, oh, so you told me this, whatever it was about your family, and I go to ask a follow-up question. He cuts me off mid-question and it's like, no. He's like, no more questions. You got enough out of me tonight. But like, he said it in all serious, like he meant it. So I'm like, whoa, forgive me for being curious and just trying to fill some silence. And he's like, what, you're not comfortable in silence? Once again, in all seriousness, I'm like, yeah, I'm comfortable in silence. Bitch, I'll show you silence. You will never hear a motherfucking word out of me ever again. Like, I just met you. Why would I be comfortable in silence with you? 2, it's not even about that. You clearly weren't comfortable with silence for the past 3 hours because if I recall correctly, you talked pretty much the entire fucking time. So we continue on in this silence and he looks at me and he goes, can I give you some advice? And I look at him and I go, no, you can't. Because at this point, I'm done. And he says to me, when you kiss someone, maybe use less tongue. So I say, me use too much tongue? You were trying to kill me. You were actively trying to make it so that I couldn't breathe. And he just like laughed it off. The audacity. Like, is this train headed to Delusionville? Like, am I in the fucking Twilight Zone? So we get back to his stop and he's right off, like his apartment's right off the fucking stop. And I am just so ready to go home. Like, I'm so ready. But I'm in Brooklyn at this point and it's 2 a.m. And I'm thinking, you know what? Let me just get 3 hours of sleep and then head out. Because at least at 5 a.m. there'll be people going to work. The sun will be coming up, you know. We get in, we listen to a little music. He starts undressing and is like, is that what you're wearing to bed? Because I'm fully clothed. And I'm like, yeah, I told you I'm not doing anything with you. And he's like, yeah, no, of course, consent king. But like, if you're feeling a vibe and you want to do something for me, you totally can. So yeah, he went to the bathroom and I dipped. Fuck Hinge and all the weirdos.
One time I was talking to this guy on Bumble and he wanted to go on a first date and he wanted to go on a hike. And I know that's like a new thing now that people want to go on a hike and don't want to get a drink, don't want to do that. I was like, okay, that's fine. But I don't want to go on a hike. I don't want to go in the middle of nowhere in the woods with someone that I don't know. I was like, well, how about a park or something? He's like, no, I want to go on a hike. And I was like, okay, you're going to go on a hike by yourself then. I'm not going into the woods or into the middle of nowhere with someone I don't even know, sir. And he was like, all right, well, we can go for a drive then. I'm like, I don't want to go for a drive. If I didn't want to go on a hike, I don't want to go for a drive. I do not want to be alone with you, sir. That is not what we're going to do on a first date. Hello, people are crazy. So then he was like super pushy about it and I thought that was weird. And then he was like, well, that's fine. We can go to this park then. I'll pick you up. What's your address? And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not giving you my address. You're a stranger. And he was like, why? I want to be a gentleman. Why won't you let me pick you up? And I was like, you can be a gentleman in a million ways and you being super pushy right now is not the way to be a gentleman. I am not giving you my address. And he was like super aggressive about it. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to block you. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. So I blocked him on Bumble. Now, he didn't have my full name. He didn't have my phone number. All of a sudden I get this Facebook message and he was like, hey, sorry, I'm in the CVS parking lot. Someone pulled up next to me. He was like, hey, why did you block me? And I was like, bro, this is why I blocked you. First of all, you were super aggressive. You want to meet in the middle of nowhere. Second of all, you want my address. You're like, want to pick me up, whatever. And now you found me on Facebook. I do not know how. Like, I blocked you, and unless you had my images saved and then you Google image search me after, like, why did you even have my picture? Like, how could you even find me after Bumble? So then I blocked him on Facebook, and he finds me on Instagram, and I was like, bro, you are boo boo boo, like setting off all sorts of alarms. So then I got back on Bumble, and I like reported him to Bumble, and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. He seems super creepy. He's super pushy about a first date. He wants to meet for a date in the middle of nowhere. He wants to meet in the woods. He wants to go for a drive, whatever. Now he's found me on all of these different forms of social media. So I blocked him. I blocked him here. I blocked him on all forms of social media that I can. And then I didn't hear from him again, but I was like, this is a little sketchy. So I have the guy's like information, and I am always like watching the news to see if maybe he pops up as like a serial killer or something. But I think I might post him on one of those Are We Dating the Same Guys and just be like, hey, alert, alert, alarms, like watch out for this dude because he wants to meet you in the middle of nowhere, wants your address, and then he gets really angry if you don't give it to him.
Story time. I went on a date with a very famous actor and it ended up being horrible. So we went out to eat at this really nice place in Miami, one of my faves. Everyone knows him. And I'm like, Lord have mercy, there's gonna be no type of discretion. It was like the entire time people were in our face, looking, turning, watching, and I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. Anyway, we sit down, we have our table, we order food, and I don't even know how the conversation ended up here, but he starts talking about how he hates when girls wear Fashion Nova. Meanwhile, I'm wearing Fashion Nova. And I'm like, yo. So I'm too embarrassed at this point to even say anything. At the time, I work with Fashion Nova, like as an influencer. This is back before Instagram deleted my page, but whatever. I'm feeling really cute in my outfit, but I'm like, damn, sir. So we keep talking. We keep eating. The food was so damn good. I'm trying not to eat everything because I can eat a lot and I definitely am a plate clearer, but my outfit was really tight and like a light color, kind of like a stretchy material where I was like, yo, if we do anything after this, I'm gonna look pregnant if I keep eating, so I slow down. So we start talking about family and his family dynamics and my family dynamics, and don't know again how this comes up, but I'm talking about my father and how we don't have a relationship, blah, blah, blah. How about this man starts telling me that I need to find a way for my father and I to be cool again. Sir, do you know this man? Do you know any of the reasons why we are not cool? Do you understand that there could be so many reasons, like he raped me, dropped the G, that we're not cool? Which he didn't, but either way, there can be a multitude of reasons that I'm not with him. And he was just like, oh, you know, a lot of times people's moms don't tell you the whole story of what goes on with your dad, and then before you know it, you have animosity for him and it's not even real. And I'm like, it's crazy to me that men will literally defend other men that they do not know whatsoever off of the strength of what's happened in their current life. So I'm just drinking more. I'm like, Lord have mercy, what is this date? And he is a little older than me, so he has that, like, I know what I'm talking about, like, slightly condescending manner that I can't stand. So I'm hitting him with a, shake your head, Jess, shake your head. Because if I say how I really feel, I'm gonna flip this table and dip. So I'm just like, stay pleasant, just get through this evening. And then it gets worse. I don't know how we end up here, but we start talking about Rihanna. This man starts telling me how much he loves Rihanna, how much he wishes he could date Rihanna, how much he would just do anything for her, how he's like a super fan and all this shit. And I'm like, bruh, who doesn't want to date Rihanna? She's a baddie, she's beautiful, she's from the islands. You done know how to thing go. But can we not do that right now? Bruh. When I tell you this man went into strict and very definitive detail about Rihanna's appearance, about how classy she is, about how he felt like he would just suck her toes and just, it was insane. I knew I would never see him again after the date. I was like, yeah, this is dead. Like, we're never doing this shit again. I said to myself, it's so funny that a lot of women will think that dating men with status and dating these famous men is just gonna make life easier, when they don't realize that a lot of the times, not saying always, but a lot of the times when men have clout or they have money or they have some kind of status. They have their own crap going on in the background that you're probably going to find out about. And they just make it really hard to deal with. And they're not willing to see their own crap because in their mind they're perfect and they're a catch and you should be lucky to be here. But yeah, I never saw bro again. Negative 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
Oh, great. Dating apps. Honestly, dating apps have never been my thing. I'm not a fan of it. I'm more of a physical person. Like, I need to see you in person to know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, I want to meet you in person because dating apps just take away all of the importance of like dating and meeting someone. So I don't really care for dating apps. I mean, I haven't been on there for a while now, but I used to be. And majority of my first date mistakes, or not necessarily mistakes, but my first date bad experiences happened on dating app, particularly on Bumble. And actually one of the guys that I was seeing got me banned from Bumble. He got me banned because it was weird how it all happened. My account disappeared, like I couldn't log back on. It was a lot. It was a lot. But anyways, I actually have I would say some good experiences and some bad ones. And here's one of the bad ones. I was actually seeing this guy. Well, we went on a date. He was a musician, told me his father was a doctor, Jewish man. So we made plans. He literally messaged me for a whole week straight, and then finally I replied to him. Because usually when I have dating apps, I'm not usually on there all that much. I will go on there, answer questions or whatever, messages or whatever, and then I'll log out. I'll stand there for a few hours and I'll log out. Or even delete the app sometime because I'm just like, ugh. Anyways, so he reached out to me, and within like a week, or it took me about a week to reply back to him because I think at that time I had already deleted the app from my phone or whatever. So then he messaged me and wanted to go on a date. So then I agreed. I said, okay, well, we can go on a date. So he made plans. We were supposed to go and have dinner. And literally within an hour of us going to go to dinner, he messaged me and said, hey, I have to, take a rain check on the dinner. But if you like, we can meet for drinks because I ended up meeting with my father and we had food, we ate. Now I'm not hungry, so can we have drinks? So I'm like, all right. I mean, I guess normally I wouldn't go for like drink dates because I think it's just a waste of my time. But I decided to go anyways, although he did cancel. That should have been my first red flag. But I was like, you know what? Sure, let's just go for drinks, whatever. So it was like 8, almost 9 o'clock. We met for drinks. He took me to this really cheap place. That was already red flag number 2. No, no. And then we went and had drinks, right? So we're talking and enjoying the night, getting to know each other. He's telling me that his father's a doctor, explaining to what they had for dinner or whatever, telling me that his father's a doctor, blah, 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 blah. I didn't even ask him about that. He volunteered that information. Anyway, so we're talking and I had 2 drinks. I had 2 drinks. He had 3 drinks. Then comes time for us to pay for the drinks. He called the waiter and asked for 2 checks. So he said to give him his check and for him to give me my checks. I was a little taken back. I was like, wait, what? I had 2 drinks. You had 3 drinks. You invited me out. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Like, what is going on here? I'm a bit taken back because I'm not used to this. I'm not used to like the man asking me to pay, let alone 2 drinks. So I didn't even eat. So what would have happened if we had went to dinner? Because if anything, you asked me out, so you should be paying for the drinks and the food. I could have taken myself out and had drinks. I could have eaten at home. You know what I mean? Although I did eat when I figured we wasn't going to have dinner anymore. I could have took myself to a very fancy, high class restaurant or bar and have 2, 3 drinks and be able to take care of the bills. I could have taken myself to a nice restaurant and had all the food that I wanted and take care of my bills. But you asked me out. You told me, let's go out. I got ready, looked nice to meet you. And then you asked me to pay for my own drinks. I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm not going to say anything or, try to embarrass anyone tonight. So I ended up paying for my drinks and then I was getting ready to leave. Got to my car and left. As soon as I got home, I got a text message from him saying, hey, how did you make it home? I thought I was nice, but you not paying for the drinks had already ruined the cuteness that I thought you were. Okay, so this is already out the door. So he texts me saying, how did I make it home fine? I'm like, yeah, I made it home fine. Oh, so I really like you. This is him. I really like you. I really like you. I'd love to meet up for another. So he went on to say that he really liked me and he'd love to see me again. We should plan for a second date. And then he said a third sentence. And that's when I basically skipped the first two and I replied to the third one, which has nothing to do with the date. So then I basically ignored him the whole time about the asking for a second date thing. And I was thinking that he should have put two and two together because I'm like, I'm not about to go out with you and I have to pay for my own drinks again. There's no way. So then that happened and I didn't talk to him for like a few days. And then my mistake was when we were chatting, he asked me, what I like to do on the weekend or whatever. So I was like, yeah, on Sundays, I like to do a number of things, but this is one of the things I like to do, which is go to flea markets and, whatever flea market they have in the next town over. So I told him that and completely forget that I told this man this. Sunday rolling, I went to the flea market. The first eye that I saw looking at me at the flea market was this man. Red flag number 3. I saw him at the flea market. Then he walked up at me and said, "Oh, wow, what a coincidence! What a coincidence!